6 a.m. The salty tang of ocean spray mixing with the rich aroma of fresh brewed coffee as I fire up the wood-fired oven in my seaside kitchen. Waves crash against the rocky cliffs below, a rhythmic roar that's been my morning soundtrack for months. I'm Alex Thorne, 48, hands call used from years slinging pans in high-end San Francisco restaurants, now kneading dough for sourdough loaves that'll feed the locals at my little inn. The Lighthouse Haven, 12 rooms in a restored 1890s lighthouse on the Oregon coast, perched on a bluff overlooking the Pacific. 8 months of sweat equity, $82,000 from my late wife's life insurance, turning this crumbling relic into a cozy retreat where hikers crash after trails and families watch whales from the deck. Then this pearl-clutching busybody in a crisp linen blazer storms up my gravel path with a clipboard and a badge that looks like it came from a cereal box. Claims my entire property is violating her Coastal Heritage Alliance rules. Not just the inn, but the whole bluff. Says I've been operating illegally while she monitored from afar. I was about to flip my lid. But here's what this Vivian Hargrove didn't know. I had every permit, every inspection report, every scrap of history that would turn her meddling into her worst nightmare. What would you do if some self-appointed guardian tried to snatch your fresh start? Drop a comment with where you're watching from and share your own coastal nightmare stories. 6 months before Vivian tried to torpedo my inn, I was a broken chef staring at an empty apartment in the Bay Area. 22 years cooking for tech brothers and celebrities, living in a condo where the HOA dictated everything from balcony plants to the decibel level of your vacuum cleaner. My wife, Lena, lost her battle with cancer the same month my restaurant gig imploded during the pandemic. She left me her savings and a dream we'd whispered about, escaping the city for the coast, restoring an old lighthouse like the ones we'd visited on our honeymoon. I scrolled Zillow at 3 a.m. fueled by black coffee and grief, when I spotted it. The old Cape Foulweather Lighthouse Inn, abandoned for a decade, foghorn silent, paint peeling like sunburned skin. Photos showed salt-eaten wood, leaky roofs, and a widow's walk that looked ready to walk itself into the sea. The auction smelled of mildew and desperation, but beneath the decay, I saw potential. Sweeping views, original brass fixtures, a kitchen begging for revival. I bid $145,000. Won it by noon. The first 5 months were a grind. I rented scaffolding that creaked like old bones in the wind, scraping layers of guano and rust, replacing beams while gulls screamed overhead like judgmental critics. My arms ached from sanding, but slowly, the place shone. Here's a pro tip that saved my bacon: salt air corrodes everything, so use marine grade sealants from day one. One good coat beats a dozen repairs. By month 6, I had bookings trickling in, birdwatchers from Portland, surfers chasing swells, locals like old-timer Hank Riley who ran fishing charters and brought clients for my crab bisque. Emily Voss from the community college started leading tide pool tours from my beach access. For the first time since Lena's funeral, I felt like I was honoring her memory instead of just surviving. That's when the harpy in heels appeared. Vivian Hargrove, 55, with hair so perfectly coiffed it defied coastal winds, and an attitude that could sour fresh cream. She pulled up in her gleaming silver Mercedes on a foggy Wednesday, heels sinking into my mulch like daggers. I was hanging lanterns when her door slammed, not shut, slammed, like my existence offended her. She marched up, waving a laminated badge, President, Coastal Heritage Alliance. Mr. Thorne, she declared, eyes narrowing behind designer shades. I'm here to inspect your compliance with heritage preservation protocols. I wiped sawdust from my hands. Ma'am, this is private property. Got all my permits from the county. Her smirk could curdle milk. Oh, darling, that's adorable. This bluff falls under CHA oversight for historical maritime sites. You've been renovating without authorization. She thrust a folder at me, fancy letterhead, stamps that screamed official, citing violations from unauthorized structural changes to endangering protected seabird habitats. Fines starting at $3,000. She slapped a citation on my porch rail and sauntered off, leaving a trail of perfume that clashed with the sea air. Watching her Mercedes fade into the mist, I knew this wasn't a neighbor nitpick. This was a siege. Vivian's opening salvo hit like a nor'easter. Within 72 hours, agencies swarmed my inn like seagulls on a fish gut. Thursday dawn, State Parks Ranger citing heritage site disturbances. Friday, Environmental Health Inspector probing my septic system over anonymous wetland complaints. Saturday, County Zoning Enforcer with a tape measure, muttering about bluff setbacks. Each one looked baffled. The ranger admitted my restorations matched historical blueprints perfectly. But they all parrot the same script, reports from a concerned Alliance member claiming I was bulldozing history. The crunch of official boots on my gravel became my dread symphony. What boiled my blood? I was legit. Building permits, historical society approvals, even a grant from the Oregon Heritage Commission for preserving the lighthouse lens. But Vivian was weaponizing red tape, knowing probes alone could scare off guests. The zoning guy finally spilled, off record, this Hargrove lady's complaints read like she wrote the rulebook herself. Keeps yapping about Alliance authority like it's law. Time to counterpunch. I spent Sunday in the county archives, buried in dusty ledgers that reeked of old paper and ink, fluorescent bulbs humming like distant foghorns. What I unearthed was gold. The Coastal Heritage Alliance wasn't a real entity. No state registration, no nonprofit status, just a website Vivian launched 6 months ago, fancy but fake as a $3 bill. But digging deeper, I found her motive. Vivian's family had lost a bid on this property in the 90s, her uncle ran a failed resort nearby. This was personal, she wanted my bluff for a luxury condo flip. Irony alert, while preaching preservation, her alliance was a front for her real estate schemes. I photocopied it all, then fired back. Monday, reported her fake org to the Attorney General. Tuesday, filed complaints with zoning about her harassment. Wednesday, tipped off the local paper about bogus coastal watchdogs. Thursday morning, inspectors hit her office, a rented space in town smelling of potpourri and panic. The scent of her desperation wafted through the village like low tide. My phone buzzed Friday. Mr. Thorne, this is Carla Ruiz from County Zoning. We need you and Ms. Hargrove at a heritage clarification meeting Monday. Records show discrepancies in site designations. My gut twisted, disputes could freeze my operations for months. But Hank Riley, the salty fisherman, laughed it off over beers. Boy, if they're confused about your rights, they're blind to her bullshit. She's just handed you ammo. That weekend, I armored up, blueprints, photos, endorsements from the Historical Society. Sunday night, intel from Emily Voss, Vivian was rallying her alliance, a dozen cronies, for an emergency fund drive, $20,000 for legal defense. Her own flock questioning why dues funded fights over a lighthouse they'd never visited. Many reveal, Vivian's allies were grumbling about her obsession. Monday's meeting was a pressure cooker in a bland conference room smelling of stale coffee and bureaucracy. Vivian arrived late, pearls gleaming, but I spotted cracks, smudged lipstick, a twitch in her eye. What unfolded would flip her script. The meeting dragged into limbo, but Vivian doubled down with a smear offensive that stung my core. Within days, her alliance flooded social media, save our coast from greedy developers' pages blasting me as a city slicker ruining heritage. Photos of my scaffolding edited to look like demolition crews, my kitchen reno called industrial blight. Comments from fake profiles, concerned local Patty and heritage hero Jim, ranting about lost views and endangered puffins. She roped in 3 actual villagers, folks I'd never met, to spread whispers at the diner, Thorns in is a hazard, Alliance says so. Financial hits landed hard. My linen supplier demanded upfront payments over regulatory risks. Bank paused my improvement loan mid-transfer. I sat on my deck, waves pounding below, tasting salt and defeat, wondering if Lena's dream was doomed. Then voices drifted up from the beach path, families on Emily's tide pool tour, kids giggling over sea stars. I wandered down, ready to shoo them, but Maria Lopez from Astoria hugged me. Alex, this place is magic. My boys learned more here than in school, and that chowder heaven. Her partner, Rahul, clapped my shoulder. Don't let that Hargrove witch win. This inn's good for the coast. Lightning struck, fight fire with community. Saturday, I posted signs, Lighthouse Heritage Day, free tours and tastings. Called Hank, Emily, regulars. Over 60 showed, birders from Eugene, surfers sharing swell stories. Hank demoed knot tying, Emily explained bluff ecology. Laughter echoed off the cliffs as kids chased crabs. Spotting Vivian's Mercedes idling at the road's end, binoculars glinting, was sweeter than my berry cobbler. Late afternoon, old Gertie Hayes, 82, village historian with a walker and a memory like a steel trap, approached with a faded scrapbook. Son, I knew this lighthouse when foghorns were coal-fired. She flipped to a yellowed clipping, 1995 auction where Vivian's uncle lost the bid, her young face scowling in the background. That girl's been bitter since. Claimed family rights, but it was all greed, wanted to flip it for condos. Pu.